and welcome to Fraggle Talk, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. This is the podcast where we cover Fraggle Rock back to the rock, episode by episode, along with the talented producers, performers, writers, and builders who helped put it together. I'm your host, silly creature Joe Hennis. Today, we're breaking out of our format for a special bonus episode all about the terrific music heard throughout the series. Our guest today has written and produced music for Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Beyonce, and hundreds more. He's the current CEO of the Recording Academy, best known for the Grammy Awards. On Back to the Rock, he serves as the executive music producer and key songwriter, having co-written new songs for every episode and overseen new arrangements for over a dozen classic Fraggle Rock songs. We are extremely pleased to welcome Harvey Mason Jr. to the podcast. Hey, Harvey.
Joe, how are you, buddy? It's good to be here.
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you about all this great Fraggle music.
Thank you. I love the introduction. You know, I'm a simple human, a simple thing as well. I just love Fraggle Rock from the top to the bottom, from the beginning to the end. The chance to work on this show has been, I don't know, I don't want to overstate it, but it's almost like a dream come true because I've grown up with the Henson Company and the Henson family and a lot of the characters. I'm a little old for some of the Fraggle Rock stuff, but I just, part of what they've done and what Jim Henson has created has been a part of my DNA my whole life. So it's just so much fun to be involved in the show. It's fun to talk to you about it. So thanks for having me.
Of course. And I mean, look, you're preaching to the choir here because we're all Fraggle fanatics over here at Topics.
Love it.
So you mentioned being a fan of Fraggle Rock beforehand. How much of a part of Fraggle Rock was in your life? I mean, you say you didn't grow up with it, but do you remember watching this back when it was on originally, or did you kind of catch up with the DVDs before diving into this show?
Well, I grew up more on Muppets and some of the other Henson properties, but then was very aware of Fraggle Rock. And then when I had kids, we would go back and watch a lot of that, a lot of the material. And that's how I got initially introduced to Fraggle Rock, was through my kids. But in preparing for this show and for the new version of Fraggle Rock, I definitely went back, watched some other versions, listened to a ton of songs, and that was one of the things that really resonated with me, was the music was so well done. I mean, the songs aren't just the most basic kiddie songs that you hear a lot of times on children's programming. These are songs that are really well written, well thought out, musically very advanced and interesting and intricate. But they're also just catchy as heck, and you just end up singing them all day. So in watching the old episodes, I just came away thinking, man, the music is really, really cool, really important. And so I was excited when they asked me to be involved on that side of it.
So is that how it happened? You just kind of got the call one day that the Henson Company's like, hey, we want you on this show? Well,
I don't know if it was they want me on the show. It was like the Henson Company is getting ready to do a show, and they're going to rework some of the Fraggle Rock episodes and come up with new episodes. And at that point, we were just doing shorts. I think they were, mini episodes. It was during COVID. And the word came to me that they were starting to do that. And I'm not sure if they heard that I'd done some good stuff musically or what, but we ended up sitting down at my studio and just talking about what their vision for the show was and see if it aligned with what I would like to do to the music. And fortunately for me, it did. And it was a good meeting. It went well. One good story during the meeting was one of the people who works with the Fraggle Rock team, Johnny is his name. He brought a Fraggle Rock character to my studio, like a real puppet. And he pulled it out and he started like manipulating the puppet. And I'm embarrassed to even say it, but like I started tearing up a little bit because like just the eyes and the fuzzy hair and just it almost was so surreal having that character in my studio talking to me. And it hit me like, this is incredible. And this is such a great chance to work on something that is really meaningful to me and my, upbringing, but also for millions of kids all around the world. This is going to hit them the way that it hits me. So when he pulled out that dang puppet, I would have done the job. I would have done. They didn't even have to pay me at that point. Hopefully, I didn't say that out loud, but I was hooked. And as I said, fortunately for me, we got along well, and they asked me to do the shorts, which led to doing the series on Apple. So it was great.
You know, it's funny. We interviewed John Tartaglia here on this podcast earlier, and he told a very similar story about how he brought a puppet to meet with Apple to kind of help seal the deal there. So it seems like that's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, if he
Just bring a puppet.
takes that puppet anywhere, he can get anyone to do anything. I'm pretty sure of it.
Amazing. It's a scary talent to have. So you've worked with a ton of legendary artists. We mentioned just a few of them at the top of the show here, but be honest, are the Fraggles the biggest divas that you've ever worked with?
No question. The Fraggles are by far the biggest I've ever worked with. I mean, they are so demanding, so difficult, so much attitude, but they can sing. So they have the right to be divas. It's how it is.
True. And they work for radishes, so it makes it a little bit easier to stomach there.
Some of their requests out of control, their living conditions, the things they want to eat. I mean, I've seen, pre-show writers or pre-studio writers from artists, but the stuff the Fraggles require is just out of control.
It must be. I can't even imagine. So, all right. So walk me through the process of how you would approach a new. We'll start with the new songs before we get to the classic ones. But did you just kind of get a script and they would say like, okay, there's a song that would go in here, and then it's just up to you to figure out how to fill the space?
Well, in some instances it was that simple, but most of the times they had a very specific purpose for the song, and there's a scene where they want the song to happen. So we're talking to the writers and the Henson team, and then some of even the puppeteers, but definitely Johnny was involved in some of those conversations. But they're saying, here's the flow of the episode. Here's the original or the pre-existing song we're going to use, because in each episode there's a pre-existing and an original. So here's the pre-existing song we're going to use in that episode. Here's the area of the episode where we would like to introduce a new song. And here's our hope for what it accomplishes story-wise. Sometimes they would have a title, sometimes they'd have a line or two, sometimes they just had a concept or a thematic idea of what the song should feel like and convey to the listener. They'd say, well, right here there's a lot of tension or uncertainty in the character and the story beat, or here's a celebration, we'd love an up-tempo thing. And then sometimes they would give me examples of pre-existing songs, just songs that were streaming that you would hear, like, oh, there's a Bruno Mars song we kind of like, or here's a Dua Lipa song we like, or an older song they would reference. So giving me references, giving me story beat ideas, and then giving me specific lines or lyrics or titles were sometimes things that I got that really helped define or at least point us in the direction of what a song should be.
That's great. And then you had a couple of co-writers as well. So was it just you and the others just kind of sitting in a room, kind of hammering it out? Did you guys split up the duties?
It was us sitting in a room, and the co-writers on this particular project, Sam Ramirez and Andrew Hay, were really instrumental in setting the sound and the tone for a lot of this stuff. And the three of us worked together on both the pre-existing songs and creating the production and like, not upgrading is the complete wrong word, but doing new interpretations of the classic Fraggle Rock songs is something that Andrew, myself, and Sam worked on. And then that gave us some cool context and kind of a vision for what the original song should sound like, because we've been producing some of the pre-existing songs. So we kind of are in that mindset and in the spirit of in keeping with what the songs originally were. So we didn't want to try and just strap on songs that didn't have any correlation or weren't related in some way to the songs that were pre-existing. We wanted to feel coherent and of the same world. So I think Sam and Andrew did an amazing job of working with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And you mentioned kind of matching the tone of the old songs. Those Fraggle songs, I don't know how anyone, even if you're a musical genius, can boil them down and kind of label why this is a Fraggle song, because Philip Balsam and Dennis Lee are just geniuses. And what was it for you that made a song a Fraggle song?
It was a clever wordplay. It was the melodic kind of intricacies that they do, but it's also the singable and sing-along nature of a lot of parts of their songs. They're very catchy, they're very hooky, not nursery rhyme-y though. A lot of kids' songs are very simple and like nursery rhyme. Their songs just were really well crafted, and you could tell they spent time on it. You could tell that the lyrics really were meaningful, and they went back and forth on some of these lyrics. They weren't just superficial or shallow story-wise. They really had some depth, but I think it was a lot of the melodies and the intricate parts that would overlap each other. Also, what makes it a Fraggle song is they're just fun. And they would say things that just made you smile and made you feel good. Even on some of the ballads or more introspective songs, they would just say things in a way that just give you that warm feeling like, oh, the Fraggles are just so cool and so sweet and so heartfelt. And I think that's really a common thread among all the Fraggle songs and really episodes for that matter, is the earnestness and the heartfelt type of approach to everything they did. Maybe that's why people like them all these years later and love them. Like me and you were sitting here talking about the darn Fraggles. This is because they had a lot of heart, a lot of feeling, and they were real. They were so fake, but they were so real.
It's true. Yeah. Did you get a chance to talk to or work with either Philip Balsam or Dennis Lee before working on these songs?
Yes. In fact, one of the songs, I believe, we co-wrote with Dennis and potentially Philip as well. And they were a big part of obviously informing what we did with original songs. And they were a big part of the song that we wrote with them. It was really a treat for me.
That's fantastic. I love that. I mean, that's been a pattern for the new Fraggle Rock for sure, of bringing back a lot of these people who used to work on the old show.
Yeah, some of the original
some of the performers
voices
and some of the writers. Yeah. Exactly. You can't leave the magic. It's true. And now you're a part of that. You're stuck now as a member of the Fraggle Rock family. You're going to be working with them for the rest of your career, I'm sure, and beyond.
I hope I'm that lucky, Joe. I really do.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of those classic songs. You said that the writers just kind of handed you which songs to use. With your research beforehand, were there any songs that you were like, "Ooh, I really hope I get to play with that one. I get to play in that sandbox."
Yeah, and we listened to probably 50 or 60 songs, and we did it as a group. We had a big link or box with all the songs that they were considering. So we would talk about them and say, which ones do you think would be best? Which ones do you think we should avoid? So we all had some input. The songs that I didn't want to do, I only didn't want to do them because they were so amazing and they were so classic and iconic that I was scared to touch them. The title song was like that a little bit. You've heard that song so many darn times, and you associate so many feelings and memories with it that for me it was daunting to try and reapproach it and think what I would do with it to make it more modern, but also not ruin it and not kill the vibe of what that song was and what it meant to so many people. So that was one of the more challenging songs for us to reinterpret, was that iconic title song.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So I do think that you did nail it. It does feel like the old song. It does feel updated, but it doesn't feel disrespectful in any way. What exactly did you do to the song to give it that update, but not too much of an update?
Well, that's the secret sauce. I can't tell you everything I did, Joe.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
No, it's really a challenge, and it's something that I've done a lot in my career. I'm not sure how I got to be this person, but sometimes I've been challenged with projects that you're working on a piece of music that a lot of people know or a lot of people love, and you have to figure out how to make it work in the current setting or make it relevant for what it is you're working on without making the people who loved it really pissed off at you. And so I started doing that. I produced Dreamgirls, all the music for that film in 2006 or 7, and that had been a musical that people around the world had loved for a long time. So we were looking at these songs and I was saying, how do I make these songs sound great for today's movie going audiences without making everyone hate me and send hate mail to me? And so that was really where the process started, of being able to walk the tightrope between respecting what the original version was and picking out the very best and most meaningful parts of what was working about the original song, and adding to that my own personal flavor and something that could contemporize it in a way that sounded fresh but didn't sound trendy. And so in order to do that way back then and all the way up until the Fraggle Rock songs, it's just really assessing and evaluating what are the key parts of those songs that make you feel something, that make you want to smile or sing or cry or dance, whatever the mood of the song is. Finding the key elements pulling those out and making sure you always retain those in whatever version you're doing going forward. And then you're trying to add to them the sonics that are applicable to what people are listening to today. If you're streaming something on Apple or on Spotify, whatever it is, you want it to sound competitive to that. Music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s sonically doesn't have the same sound as what we're used to and the fidelity we're used to today. So taking the key parts out, adding in some weight and some sonic modern touches, along with just making a few musical choices that I think and our team thinks will work today, is kind of the juggling act that we're doing with each and every song.
It must be challenging too, because Fraggle Rock is supposed to be so timeless. Fraggle Rock could have been like the episodes that we got here could have been made in the 80s or today or 30 years from now. And I'm sure it's tempting to put in something that's just like really hip, like the thing that, you would see on TikTok right now or whatever the kids are watching. But you don't want to go too far because, 5-10 years from now, if it sounds dated, that's not really a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I almost think it's inevitable at some point it will sound dated, but you don't want to timestamp it in this era. I would love it to be part of a bigger palette, a wider window of opportunity for people to think, oh, this sounds great. And I think if you start doing the really, really trendy, specific tricks production wise or instrumentation wise, then I think you are really cutting down the window of relevance by a lot. So it was a challenge, and you do have that tendency to try and sound exactly like everything that's on the streaming platforms, but our goal was to make something a little bit more timeless.
Definitely. Speaking of timeless, you got to work with some like really incredible celebrities on a few of these songs: Patti LaBelle and Cynthia Erivo, Daveed Diggs, the Foo Fighters. Did you get to work with them hands-on directly, or was that kind of after you've written the song, it's kind of out of your hands?
No, we were hands-on with all of them. It was a great treat. It was during COVID still, so people were socially distanced and off in the booth, but we were very hands-on from 6 feet away. But it was collaborative. It was a great experience, and I think a lot of people were attracted to the Fraggle Rock series as I was, because it is so iconic and such a part of the the culture and the DNA of all of us growing up. So we did have access to some incredible talent, some amazing people. I mean, working with the Foo Fighters, as you said, was just amazing. And working with all the different people in the cast, Patti LaBelle. We had some great guest stars. And every time I think about different ones, it just makes me laugh. But a lot of fun.
Were there any of those stars kind of unable to hit that that perfect Fraggle Rock tone? Did any of them had trouble with that, or were they able to just kind of dive right in? No, you don't have to name names. I'm just curious if any of them were just like, oh, you're close, but like just a little to the left, and you got it.
I mean, we're always doing that whenever I'm working with artists and making music. We're always trying things and pushing different areas. But the cool things about one of the cool things about the Fraggle Rock series and the characters is it's really about being yourself and about finding your own voice and not trying to be anything that you're not. So our tendency was, as a music team, was to try and just capture the coolest parts of people that were coming in to be involved and letting it live as that, and not trying to horse or horn something into a square peg and a round hole. It was really about trying to make stuff authentic and feel good. And a lot of the people already came in with somebody cool. Tiffany Haddish was one of our guests. She was amazing and hilarious, and just letting everyone do what they do and making that be part of the Fraggle Rock family. And that was one of our goals.
Fantastic. So I believe you've co-written about 15 new songs for the series. Were there any of them that kind of stand out as your favorites?
Oh my gosh. It's like, which are my favorite children? I can't answer that. It's impossible. They're all fun. They're all challenging in a different way. What's your favorite?
I'll tell you a couple of my favorites, if that helps. Honestly, I think my two favorites are the ones that bookend the series: Party Down in Fraggle Rock from the first episode, and then One Heart from the final episode of the season. I think both are really strong songs. They felt fraggly, they were fun, and they had that sense of importance that Fraggle Rock songs tend to have.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot that a couple of them made it into your favorites list. That's really cool.
Definitely.
They're so fun to write because a lot of times you can say some things that you normally wouldn't say in a song, and you can do different styles of music. That was one of the cool challenges about the series, is all the music isn't just one sound or one genre. You're able to touch a little bit of country, a little bit of pop and rock and R&B and jazz and reggae. You know, it's all over the map with the music. So it's a fun challenge for a music person like me.
It's got to be fun. Like, you're not just stuck in one place. You can really go anywhere with the songs.
Yeah. And the Henson Company and the producers and directors were all, you know, they were all for it. Like, hey, try something crazy, try this, try that, which those are the projects you like to be on. People looking to push the boundaries and do cool things and have fun. It's not like, you must be a robot and do this and do that. You know, that's boring. I want to have fun. Music's supposed to be fun.
That's some other show. That's some other boring show. We're not doing a podcast about that one.
Nope.
Was it tough to find the balance between when you're writing the lyrics for these songs, to find that balance between something that feels universal and something that is actually specific to the plot at hand?
Yeah, a little bit, because you do have to tell story through the lyrics, and you have to make sure that the song is actually moving the plot along. And that was one of the objectives or asks from, you know, the showrunners, is make sure these songs are accomplishing something. So you want to make them personal to the characters, you want to make them specific to the episode, but also trying to find that overarching bigger picture message that will resonate with a lot of the listeners or consumers. And it was a challenge, but I think we got it done on a couple of the songs, that people can find themselves in the lyric or their situation in what's happening on Fraggle Rock. Not just kids either, like people in life. And even if you're an adult or a young adult, you're hearing themes and messages in these songs, or at least I hope you are, that resonate with you on a different level, whether you're, you know, just starting your adult journey, or you're a kid just kind of listening to them bobbing your head. I think the messages are subconsciously in there and kind of cool, and work their way into your brain, hopefully.
Did you ever get a note in a script that you just saw and you went, I don't know how I'm going to turn that into a song? That sounds impossible. And yet, you know, you got to make some magic.
Maybe not that drastic of a reaction, but there have been times
Sure.
when I'm reading the script, I'm like, okay, this is going to take a little bit of thinking and stewing. And some of the writing was so good and so visual. You know, we're working on this stuff way before you see any action, no puppets. A lot of times when you're making music for a film, you see what's there, and you can get something from that, and you can get a little bit of the energy from what you're seeing on screen. But this is all in your imagination, so it's really kind of cool because the writing was so well done, and the direction, you know, even though there's nothing's been directed yet, the directors and the writers are giving us all this information, and we're able to use that as ammunition or inspiration for the music that we're writing. So sometimes we would have an extra round of phone calls, you know, we get to a script like, you know, this one I'm going to need a little bit more help on, and they would just talk us through it, and they give us more insight. And here's what the characters are feeling, because a lot of times you're reading the script, you don't know the motivation or the lead up to a scene in the film, and what's the history there for the character, what's their interaction or relationship with another character that leads them to this place, and they can give us that. And once we have that, then we have, I think, a better chance of making the song land for the scene.
So I gave you a freebie, not giving me your favorite song that you've written for the show, but I'm not going to let you go without telling me what some of your favorite songs from the old show are that you got to bring along to the to Back to the Rock.
Oh no, that's impossible too. How can I tell you that? I need to look at a list of the songs and I'd have to start singing them and I'd start remembering which ones are my favorite. We did, I think, 15 original songs and 15 pre-existing songs, if my math is right. Uh, Hard to say for sure. One of my favorite would definitely be the theme song because it was so challenging and I had heard it a lot of times. So by the time we were done with it, I felt proud of where we ended up. And that's usually hard to do for me because I'm always like, oh, we can change this, or we can make this better, or this maybe should be different. But when we finished the theme song, I felt really good about it. I felt like, okay, this feels like we talked about earlier. It feels respectful, but it feels a little bit, a little fresh and a little new. And so maybe that's my favorite. I don't know. It's a tough question.
All right. Well, we'll go with the theme song. That's fine with me. But I will say that like the fact that you kept the perfect bass line, you kept the claps. I think anything else beyond that, you can't go wrong.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad you approve. It's a tough one.
Fraggle Rock is known for having a lot of really heavy topics. This season had things like, consent as a topic, or fake news as a topic. Was that tough for you to kind of take those really tough topics and have to kind of layer them on top of basically songs for an all ages audience?
It was definitely a challenge. It was one of the things I liked most about working on this, though, is trying to take those messages and make them easily digestible. And you're taking pretty heavy concepts and you're trying to break it down in a way that people might not even know they're getting the information, or might not even know the message that's hitting them, but they'll be singing right along to it. And hopefully, subconsciously, it's sticky enough where they're getting the idea of what the song's about. And that's the cool thing about music. And that is why I love what I do, is you can use music. It's so powerful, and it amplifies emotion. It heightens the sensitivity towards being able to hear things. And it really is a tool to bring people together and to almost change people's minds and hearts about things. So when you talk about topics that are a little more deep than you would expect in a show like this, that is the most absolute perfect position for music to be in, is to be able to bring these stories and these topics into conversations in a really sneaky and clever way, which is a sing-along melody with really catchy words, but with meaning and depth and topics and subject matters that are really important to be addressing. So I think that's one of the coolest parts about my job, and especially when I'm working for Fraggle Rock.
That's a great answer. And it just really highlights how important what you're doing is, for a show like this, where we really are trying to get some important points across to kids and families, adults even. And, sometimes like that's the, we got to have a little bit of ice cream that we're putting the medicine into. You're the ice cream.
That's right. And it's delicious ice cream, I hope.
Exactly. What is it like for you to write a song and then months later you get to see the Fraggles on screen singing the stuff that you've written?
It's crazy for sure. And I think I told you about my love for the puppets and how those hit me. So when you see the songs that you've written, I mean, it's one thing when you see the songs you produced that were pre-existing songs, and we've heard those before, but to have the puppets performing one of our songs, like an original song, and singing the lyrics that me and the team were singing in the studio, just like going crazy and laughing and celebrating that we were so excited about. And then to have that transfer to a TV show with the Henson Fraggles singing it is a surreal experience. And it's definitely not strangely unlike when I'm writing a song for a pop artist that I've grown up loving. I work with Whitney Houston or Michael Jackson or Aretha Franklin, or, artists that are just iconic, legendary artists that you've lived your whole life singing their music. And then all of a sudden you look through the glass and they're singing one of your songs. I used to have full head of hair, and those experiences blew all my hair completely off my head. And that's very similar to the Fraggles. It is really true. It's very similar to the Fraggles singing one of your songs. It's an experience that's hard to describe.
That's amazing. What a gift that must be.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
We are very much keeping our fingers crossed that Back to the Rock gets picked up for a second season.
Yeah.
If it does, and if you are able to continue working on it, do you have any like bucket list items, anything that you wanna make sure that you get to do on season 2?
Well, to be honest, Joe, my bucket list thing is I need a Harvey Mason Jr. Fraggle on the show, playing an instrument, singing a song or something. He needs to have, like, I used to have a lot of hair. He should have a nice, beautiful, flowing afro, nice brown skin, and he should be just dancing and partying on screen. I think that's going to be part of like a prerequisite to my deal. If I work on the show, I need a real character on screen. I want him to have a great singing voice, very different than my singing voice. But I'm obviously kidding. I would never expect that. But bucket list is just to try and do more great songs. You know, I don't think there's any one song that I'm dying to tackle. I think the scripts will dictate what songs work for the script. So I'm sure I think I heard a stat that there's 210 or 205 Fraggle Rock songs that are cataloged. So
Wow.
I think getting a chance to get back to some of those songs would be amazing. Hopefully we'll get a chance to write more original songs. And definitely a goal would be to continue to have really cool collaborations with amazing artists and singers and people that have grown up loving the Fraggles like we all have.
I will say it's not that far-fetched to get a Harvey Mason Fraggle on screen, because Philip Balsam had one.
Really?
You know, there was he voiced a character. He didn't obviously perform it because he wasn't a puppeteer, but yeah, he got to sing a song or two on the show, and
all right,
I think they called it Balsam Fraggle.
There we go. That's what we need.
That's right. All right, whoever's listening from the Henson Creature Shop, get working on on your next hit Fraggle.
Oh my gosh, hilarious. That's hilarious.
We're gonna look for him in the background. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Well, is there anything else that you want to kind of say to your fans, to the folks who've been really enjoying your work on Back to the Rock here?
Obviously, you start with a huge thank you, because people watching the show and loving the show is the best payment and the best form of a thank you that comes to us, you know, both from the music side and from the Henson side, I'm sure. So the fact that people are enjoying it and appreciating it means the most to me. I hope that we do get another chance to do some more episodes, but I hope more than anything, the people that love the show feel like it was in keeping with the tradition that Jim Henson and his team had set well before we started. And I hope that people feel like it brought something good to the world. You know, that's my whole purpose in life at this point. I've done a lot of things in my career. I've been making music a long time, a lot of film and TV shows. And now I like to try and make sure everything I'm doing is bringing positivity and love and good energy into the society and into, you know, different communities. So I would just say, I hope you all appreciate it. I hope you love it. I hope it makes you feel something, feel good, feel included, feel welcome, feel loved. And I hope we get a chance to do more.
Well, I can confirm for you that you are accomplishing all these things and more. The fans are really loving this new show. I am loving the show very much. I think the songs are fantastic. I'm very, very grateful that you've brought new life into these classic songs that I've loved for my entire life. And now it's like we get these new arrangements, these new recordings. They're showing up on, you know, Apple Music and Spotify and all that, where I can listen to them whenever I want. Like, what a gift that is.
Isn't that crazy? So crazy.
Amazing.
And it's been really crazy working with some of the puppeteers and hearing them sing these songs again, you know, after all these years, and having them reapproach it. A couple of them were, I sang on the original of this song, and this is such a cool moment to be able to revisit these. That has been a huge treat for me. And like you said, you've all enjoyed hearing them. I've really enjoyed creating them. I've really enjoyed working with the talented people that, you know, do so much more work than I do. I feel like my job's the easiest job in the world. I just, you know, make the music, but they all perform it and bring it to life and give it so much heart and soul. And so it's been definitely a life's accomplishment and a lifetime memory for me to be involved with something like this. No question.
They really are some of the most talented folks in Hollywood. I mean, incredible. Those Henson puppeteers.
Crazy.
Harvey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the great work that you've done on the series. Again, we're keeping our fingers crossed for season 2 and that you get to be a part of it. At this point, it would feel weird if you weren't. You are now, like I said, you're a member of the Fraggle Rock family. We are fully expecting more of your songs moving forward.
Love it. Well, thank you so much and really enjoyed being with you. And hopefully we'll get to talk about another season.
Yes, absolutely. And that brings us to the end of another episode of Fraggle Talk. Next week, we'll be back to our regular format. So until then, we'll see you next time. Fraggle Talk, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast, is brought to you by toughpigs.com. Produced, written, and hosted by Joe Hennis. Fraggle Fast Fact segment presented by special guest John Tartaglia. Dig Deeper segment hosted by Beth Cook with special guest Hallie Stanford. Fraggle Talk art by Dave Hulteen Jr. The Fraggle Rock mark and logo, characters, and elements are trademarks of the Jim Henson Company, all rights reserved. Fraggle Rock theme song, written by Philip Balsam and Dennis Lee, is used with permission. Special thanks to the Jim Henson Company, Apple TV Plus, and the entire Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock family. For more from Tough Pigs, please find us at Tough Pigs on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time down at Fraggle Talk.